we were talking a little bit earlier off the air about Twitter, and I don't think people realize, but the hosts here, all of us look at it way too much. And I think it affects us as hosts sometimes. You don't necessarily jump into this medium as much, so it's not like you're going to write a column, publish a paragraph, read a reaction to it, and then figure out your next paragraph. But that actually happens a lot here with the segments and the way the shows work. And I think it's a huge problem. And I'm wondering if it's something, it's so popular right now with our world, with sports, with media, that if it actually, is there any benefit to it, though?
I think it's gone a little bit too far. I think Twitter has some really good value. I mean, it's really fun during live event moments like something like the Oscars. Twitter's great. Everybody, pointing out stuff, making jokes. It can almost be like a second screen. I get a lot of news from Twitter, like the people I follow, the recommendations they have for articles. I see a lot of things that maybe I wouldn't see unless a friend recommended them, stuff like that. I think where you get in danger is if you're looking at the replies all the time and how people are reacting to stuff, it's a sample size that doesn't represent everybody that's listening to you or reading you. It tends to be people that might be online a lot. God bless those people, by the way. But that might not necessarily be the same person who's like some, 35-year-old teacher who's driving home from work who might not be as passionate about whatever you're talking about as other people. I think sometimes you can get into danger with Twitter or with message boards or really anything of trusting whatever this collective opinion is and thinking it represents everybody. And I think we do this too with sports blogs. I think you just have to take it, I don't want to say with a grain of salt, but just take it as part of a larger package. Like, here's what these people are saying. Now, what does this mean in the larger context? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense because I think some of the initial uses for what it was are still there. But I think it's almost been overrun with this sense that it's, I think you have to have a thick skin with this, but I'm not going to tell you there aren't mornings where you wake up and you have 10 tweets about how terrible you are that, depending on what your mood is that day, that can actually bum you out a little bit. So I try not to look at it at all during a show because it's just not worth it. And I look at somebody like you get about 2 million followers. Like, what's the point of even reading your mentions? Because you're going to get a few thousand a day, and I don't know what the goal is. And it's not like you're going to sit there and interact with people constantly. And I still don't know what the value of a retweet is for somebody, but I guess kids seem to like it. But it's weird. I feel like it's heading in this direction where I wonder how sustainable this thing can be.
Well, and then also it's pretty easy to get attention on Twitter and to go at people and try to start little feuds, things like that. I still think there's real value in connecting with the audience. I'm not sure if Twitter's the best way to do it all the time, but like, for instance, I wrote a column about PEDs a few weeks ago and got something like 10,000 emails the first week after the column. And some of the emails were so thoughtful and so interesting that I just ended up, I was copy pasting them and putting them into documents. And ended up, we ran this whole feedback column. It was basically 16,000 words of all these different opinions and thoughts and people arguing different things. And I thought it was one of the most fascinating things we've put up. And I didn't write a single word in it. It was just different people's reactions, thoughts, feelings, concerns about where PEDs and sports is going. And something like that, I think, is great. But that was something that you had to organize a little bit. I think when it's something where just everybody comes flying in, the best way to describe it is, think about like hecklers at a sporting event, right?
Right.
So let's say Miami comes into Boston and you have people yelling stuff at the Miami Heat. Are the 25 people that are yelling things at the Miami Heat, does that represent everybody in the crowd? No. Those are the people that are just loud and heckling. And I think the players who play for the Heat understand that. They're like, oh, these guys are trying to get in our heads. And I think sometimes that can happen on Twitter, and I think people make the mistake of thinking those people represent the larger whole or something like that. Sometimes it's just Twitter hecklers.
Yeah, you're right, because if you look at it that way, it really is the same thing, but it doesn't feel that way because it feels more personal, because it's your account, it's right to you, it's an individual mention, and it'd be like being on the Miami Heat and waiting for each heckler to take his turn and you addressing them and acknowledging them, which you would never do. So I guess maybe that's a better way of looking at it. It's Bill Simmons and Ryen Russillo, SVP and Russillo on ESPN Radio. Just want to remind everybody to find some of that work, including the PED article and the reaction. It's on Grantland.com and the BS Report podcast on ESPNradio.com, and, of course, the Book of Basketball as well. LeBron James follows you, and I went through LeBron's follows, just because I was curious. And I was shocked to see that he followed Skip Bayless, because I thought, why would you even put yourself through that? Skip isn't a LeBron guy.
Yeah.
And I don't, like, I guess maybe you'd feel like I want to monitor the guy that's out there criticizing me the most. But he follows you. Have you ever been in a spot where, because you know he follows you, and look, that's kind of cool as an NBA guy, that you would have been reluctant to criticize him in a game if you wanted, not like you're going to criticize him that often, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, first of all, I didn't know he was following me. So, no, I swear to God, I really didn't. I had no idea. I've never gone to look to see who follows who. In fact, I have a theory that the best way for Twitter to make money would be to do a Twitter premium, which would be $19.99, and you could keep all the people you're following private, because then all hell would break loose in professional sports. Because these guys, all they want to do is follow porn stars and strippers and all these crazy people.
No, I love
but
doing
they're
that.
afraid to.
You know what? That's such a great call, because every now and then, you go through and you'll be like, hey, I wonder, because I'm just curious about it. And then you'll think, why is this athlete following 2,800 people? And then you go through it, and it's
you're
all wrong. And you're like, okay, that's interesting. Or like the saltiest dudes ever, the guys that are the most curmudgeonly, and you're like, this guy's really interested in what 1,600 girls have to say. But like, no, that's just direct message time right there. But you're right.
If you want, this is a whole way that athletes are meeting women these days, and if they could protect who the public could see they were following.
Right, because the wife or girlfriend is just going to look at it and go, why are you following Miss Shorty out of Kansas City?
Yeah. Or like, yeah, why are you following some hostess in the Miami area when you play for Los Angeles? Yeah, I think that would be interesting. I'm actually, it's weird. I'm a little disappointed in Twitter because I don't think it's changed at all in the last 5 years. I thought by now we'd have some really cool wrinkles to it. Like
I think it'd be interesting
within Twitter or whatever, like a little live diary box where you could pick 5 people to follow during the game. They haven't done anything.
No, you're right. Being able to customize your timeline for an event. I don't know. Look, I'm sure maybe there is some of the stuff out there. You would know far more than I would. You were on it early. I, at the beginning, thought I'm not interesting enough, and I'll go days sometimes where I don't even want to look at it. And then there'll be a stretch where, like last night, I got a bunch of different information with the trade deadline. I just kind of started going nuts, tweeting a bunch of different stuff out there because I thought it was interesting and I hadn't seen it anywhere else. But I think there'd be a benefit of being able to sort your followers. Like if you want to sort, okay, how many followers do I have that are at this, from their follower count down? Like who follows me that is important, because I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I just think it'd be interesting to learn who is interested in what you're saying.
And separate it maybe by city, stuff like that. The other thing that's happened with Twitter is there's just so many people on Twitter now that if you tweet something, the odds are somebody's not going to see it about 15 seconds after you've tweeted it, because their feed is just going to, it's just going to get shoved down. I think, especially in 2009 when I started, I joined, I think, in April 2009, and my book came out 6 months later. And I was really able to promote my book and push it. And Amazon, the sale price kept going. It went up to like 50% off at one point. And I was able to push it and tell people about it. And it really helped the book. And 4 years from now, 2013, there's so many people on Twitter now. I don't know if I would have been able to push it like that. I don't think so.
Well, I hope some